I'm doing entertainment, pop culture, things like that. Of course, following Marilyn Manson when I can. This here is from a fantastic site called Marilyn Manson Uncancelled, whose article says an exclusive report on a private email Bianca Elaine sent to Jordie White in July 2021. Now, Bianca Elaine is someone accusing Marilyn Manson of, let's just say, some very bad things that happened a long time ago. Probably even before some of you guys watching were born, 28 years ago. And it begins. On January 30th, 2023, Bianca Elaine filed a lawsuit against Marilyn Manson as Jane Doe, alleging he sexually assaulted her as a minor. She first came out against Manson in early February 2021, around the time Evan Rachel Wood and other accusers named him, when The Sun published their allegations twice. Of course, The Sun, they're in on it. They're not on Manson's side. They just want to get the juiciest allegations with no evidence they could find. And of course, coincidentally, she came out alongside with Evan Rachel Wood. In those articles, she stated that she had been in contact with Esme Bianco and that she had contacted the FBI in Maryland, where she lived, about her allegations against Manson. Let's just note here, that doesn't mean anything. Anybody can contact the authorities or the FBI and tell them a story about allegations. I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that if you contact the FBI, it sounds pretty serious. So how about if you don't present evidence, they freaking hang up and tell you to take a hike? Let's get some standards here. Because when people who are against Marilyn Manson hear, she contacted the FBI, it sounds serious. It sounds heavy. It sounds like she's got something. It sounds like something's going on behind the scenes. But the fact is, anyone can just call the FBI and tell a story. It even stated that she would soon be meeting with the FBI to discuss Manson and that she would be giving them her evidence against him. Of course, they're always going to be giving the evidence. On her social media pages at this time, Bianca began to discuss Manson a lot. They have all since been deleted. On February 8th, that same year, Bianca appeared on a double episode of the Sedan podcast where she discussed in detail her experiences with Manson. In a reply to a comment where this podcast is posted, Bianca stated, "I have a mission now to help those who are afraid of him. I am not afraid of him. I am fighting for those who are either too afraid to speak out due to his threats or are no longer with us. They deserve justice." Then something happened on July 16th, 2021. Bianca Elaine sent the following private email through her Zombatrix account, a film she was making with her husband Michael Keane, to who she thought was Jordie White, aka Twiggy Ramirez. And apparently, he's got the whole email right here. It looks pretty authentic to me. We'll get into that though. Obviously, to be totally fair, we don't ever exactly know what's authentic on each side, but it looks pretty legit. And he goes on to say that Rolling Stone reported this as a Jane Doe case, but he knew it was Bianca Elaine, and he also said she's taken advantage of the new statute of limitations law in New York. By the way, I know it's a he. I know who this is. Just saying. And then he says he posted the article on Instagram and revealed that it was Bianca Elaine who was filing the lawsuit. Soon after, he got a DM from a person named Denise Noel, who has her own website that's related to Jordie White, a former band member of Marilyn Manson, where he was known as Twiggy Ramirez. Then it goes on to say this. She informed me that back in July 2021, a woman named Bianca Elaine sent her a really interesting email to her Base Tendencies account, thinking that it was going directly to Jordie White, when in fact that site is not run by Jordie but by Denise, a longtime friend of Jordie. Though Denise had some contact with Jordie in the past and would have normally forwarded to him an email directed to him, this time she decided not to, feeling it wasn't a good time to bother him with things like this, and just put it aside. And there it lay until I posted information about Bianca Elaine's lawsuit on Instagram. In her lawsuit, Bianca basically implies that Manson was sexually assaulting her in 1995 when she was 16 on his tour bus. Jordie was there and did nothing to stop him. On Facebook, In October 2022, Bianca would refer to Jordy by name and through photos as an R word and identified him as a member of the band on the bus in 1995 who did nothing as Manson committed his crimes, holding him accountable as well. So if I'm reading this correctly, Manson Uncanceled got this mail because it was sent to somebody who the person sending it thought was somebody else, which makes sense. And that person in turn sent it to Manson Uncanceled. So that's a pretty good explanation as to how Manson Uncanceled has it. And it continues. Yet in this email, from more than a year before these Facebook posts, Bianca comes off as apologetic to both Jordy and Manson. In fact, she acknowledges that Jordy for sure doesn't know who she is, even though she publicly claimed to be with Manson during almost all the Rock is Dead tour in 1999, whenever Rose McGowan was away, and that Manson and Jordy were very close. And she basically talks to him like she's a fangirl detached from those past episodes. Good point. So if someone talks about you, oh my God, this guy's so awesome. What is he up to? I love his music. It doesn't seem like someone who's met the person. You could still be a fan and meet the person, but the language is a little bit strange if it comes off like speculative, fan-like. I get that. Most striking in the email is her confession that everything she said about Manson in public is a false hoax, that it went beyond what she wanted and now regretted. She blames this hoax on the following. Number 1, her drug and alcohol problem. Number 2, her confusion from all that was being said in the media and from friends about Manson at the time, which could go back to 2020 when people and the media first started publicly accusing Manson of being Evan's abuser. Number 3, Jessica Adams from Jack Off Jill, who was messaging her. She flips off her prior accusations against Manson as her being bitchy, but now wishes him well, and she says she is laying down my sword against him, meaning she no longer wants to fight. As for the other allegations being made against him by other women, she says she doesn't know what to believe and is really confused by them, but there are two sides to every story, so she essentially implies that she will be moving on now. A few times, she talks about speaking with and arguing with Manson, who she keeps weirdly calling Brian, directly during this time. Interestingly, she also talks about not participating in the big press articles from the time, such as the big Rolling Stone investigation, quote unquote, because Rolling Stone doesn't do investigations. They're pretty much a tabloid now. So yes, those quotations are a good idea, which is true, even though she says she was contacted to do so. Yeah, the more I think about that, the funnier it gets. Rolling Stone's investigating, guys. Rolling Stone is doing investigations. Sounds pretty silly. And at the end, Manson Uncanceled gives some final thoughts, and his final thoughts are not skimpy. He's got some very long, thought out, detailed final thoughts here. He includes pics, he includes references from articles. He's really got this thing down. And people like this make me look at the other side and say, hey, well, you're saying Manson did this, but you're not writing detailed articles like this. I mean, maybe they're out there, but I'm not seeing them. Let me know what you think down below. Manson Uncanceled will be linked. It's a great account. If you're interested in Manson and what's going on, then Manson Uncanceled is the person to be following. If you're not subscribed here, consider it. I'm doing pop culture, entertainment, stuff like that. If you don't subscribe, I'll be pretty sad about it, but I'll get over it. See you next time.